So, hello and welcome to the Dharma Life podcast. I'm your host, Aloise Middleton. And this week we are interviewing the lovely Kerry Hodges, who is a holistic healer. She's gone from being a nurse to a holistic healer, and she has also gone through 2 breakdowns in her life. And we are continuing with my breakdown to breakthrough series. So, some of you may know I had my own spiritual breakdown, spiritual emergency recently. And I'm really fascinated and interested to interview people who have gone through breakdowns in their life to see how they put their lives back together, but how ultimately it has been a good thing. So, Kerry, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
And we are local, aren't we, to one another? So I had the pleasure of doing one of Kerry's cacao ceremonies about 2 Saturdays ago, and to say it blew my mind. And I literally, my connection's very strong since everything happened, but I literally had a conversation in that cacao ceremony, and they were saying, you need to interview Kerry.
I love that.
And I was like, okay, that's no problem. And can you give me any more than that? They were like, no, we're not going to tell you any more than that. You just need to interview her. So after the end of the cacao ceremony, I came over to you, didn't I? And I dutifully said, would you be happy to be interviewed?
That's correct.
And this is why we are here now today.
Yeah.
So would you be kind enough just to tell our audience a little bit about your sort of 3D career? So you were kind of working as a nurse for quite a long time?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm still a nurse for 10 hours a week
Right.
now, but I always knew that I wanted to help people. And so I did a diploma in health and science studies at 16. I didn't want to do A levels, knowing that I was going to become a nurse. So I went into nursing very early from the age of 18. And then when I then qualified, I actually moved down here because I'm from Stoke originally, and was on the wards for a few years, but very quickly realised that didn't really sit very well with me. There was dynamics in it, and you weren't really, I wanted to be an advocate for the patients, and I couldn't really be the advocate in the way that I wanted to be. And so I then, in between, I kind of had a couple of children like you do. So I'd gone very part-time. I found a job in a GP practice, which was much better, far more accountable, far more, you can be your patient's advocate, manage your own list, but still things didn't ever feel like completely right. There was things that I just didn't align with. I felt like I was always not fighting, but wanting to. I had this grand idea that I was going to change things in the NHS and make it more patient-centered and
good luck.
and realized, but probably not soon enough, that I was fighting fire with fire. It just wasn't something that was going to happen. And so I did have my first breakdown. Do you want me to talk about that now?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, so my first breakdown was, and I'd had postnatal depression as well. So I kind of flirted with it a little bit anyway. So I was holding down a really, I'd trained within the NHS, and was an advanced nurse prescriber, advanced nurse practitioner and a prescriber, 2 small children, a husband, a house, and was just trying desperately to make the changes I wanted to see, and just completely burnt out, actually on holiday in France with my mum and dad. And it just came over me. It was like somebody flicked a switch and something just shifted. It was the most bizarre sensation. And then I started having this continuous anxiety attack. And then the next day I literally couldn't move, and it was horrendous. And so I picked myself up a little bit from that. It was a very slow process. And I did a mindfulness course, which was probably then my introduction into more of a holistic life, because I did 2 courses of 8 weeks of mindfulness.
And do you think it was a sort of spiritual awakening, ego death type thing that was happening
Oh,
to you?
probably. This realization that you're never going to make a change. This is institutionalized, it's not as much as the people in it. I'm sure there's lots of nurses and doctors who would like to think it's holistic and patient-centered. It's very difficult to do that when you've got, standards, I don't really know how to put it, but you've got national standards of care that don't always allow you to be creative, and not everybody fits in the same hole, if you know
Mm,
what I mean.
mm.
And I remember being in meditation, and just it was that cognitive dissonance is what it was. Is that I knew I wasn't fitting in, and I was deep in this meditation, and I just had a light bulb moment that told me that I was still the same person. I was still Kerry, who was kind and empathic and all these things. But it was the institute I was working in that had changed, and we're just a mismatch, and I just didn't belong there. So. But when you've trained so hard to be somewhere, it's very difficult. For me, nursing was a vocation. It was very difficult to let it go.
Mm.
So I decided that I actually what happened is I went skiing and hurt my knee, and I did
So
a med.
interesting. It's like I always say, because if people are listening to this podcast before, we talk about this, the path of Dharma, the Dharmic path.
Yeah,
And when we go the wrong direction, things like hurting our knees
yeah,
happen,
yeah,
breakdowns happen,
yeah.
um, that we're kind of shown that we're going the wrong way as such.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd hurt my knee, and the pain was excruciating. So I went on YouTube and just thought, oh, I'll just listen to this meditation, and it was a Reiki meditation, and I was like beaming light around my knee, and I did it all night. And for 2 days, I had no pain at all, and I was like, wow, that was like
Wow.
blew my mind. And then obviously I stopped doing it, so the pain came back. But it intrigued me enough to explore. So I actually did my Reiki training before I did anything else. So I trained as a Reiki practitioner, and then I was like, now I need to do something else. I need to think about leaving nursing or just changing a path somehow. And I was training in a gym. And just going back, I'd done yoga since I was 24 years old. So yoga's been
Right.
in my life a long, long time. And it supported me through many, many traumatic events. I remember turning up once and just being traumatized, um, really upset about someone in the family, and sitting on my mat, and the teacher just put a blanket around me, and I cried for the whole lesson. And she just said, just no, everybody ignore Kerry and just let her cry, because that's what she needs
Oh, yeah,
today.
it's amazing how yoga can give you what you need.
Yeah. And so yeah, I was then in a gym training, and I was like, I need to do something else. Do I do PT training, or do I become a yoga teacher? And there was this lovely, beautiful yoga teacher who I admired, and she said, you'd be a great yoga teacher. So that was it. So I then became a yoga teacher, and I'd done lots of things, like tools and some inner work, and I'd gone to CBT, and done a lot of sorting things out in my head, and in psychotherapy, and so I'd done a lot of work, but then I stopped, and I was like just trotting along doing my yoga on the side, and then I was still in nursing and still trying to make these changes, and then so I had another breakdown, and I really think it
Oh,
was
you're
because
joking.
the universe was like,
What
you
was the
can't
gap
stop
between
now.
them? What was the gap between them?
Um, Probably. about three, 3 or 4 years. And the second one was worse than the first one.
Why do you think the second one was worse than the first one?
I just don't think I did all the work. I think I did some of the work, but not all the work. Um, and so I just personally believe that it was a case of you got on the path, you're veering off the path, you need to get back on the path.
So
And
were you
so,
still obviously were still a nurse at this point, so you
yeah,
hadn't really shifted. You'd done some work on yourself, but you hadn't
yeah.
shifted careers.
No, I was doing a bit of Reiki. I was also aromatherapy massage by that point, and I was doing it all a little bit on the side. So I was certainly moving in that direction. But I'd stop doing the inner work. I mean, we can walk the path and not do the inner work, can't we? We can be a yoga teacher and not be connected to ourselves. We can be very good at walking the walk and not, or talking the talk and not walking the walk, or whatever that saying is. And I felt that I'd gone so far with all the healing modalities and trying to heal myself, and then I'd stopped. And I think it was the universe saying to me, "You can't stop now." Um, you know, you've got to carry on with it.
So do you think it was a kind of another wake up call that you
Oh,
had to continue?
it was totally another wake up call. Um, and then I went on holiday with my husband, and you have 2 weeks out of your life, and you have time to reflect. And by the time I think at the time I was working about 24 hours as a nurse. So I gradually, as the yoga had crept up and the massage, I gradually reduced my nursing hours little bit, little bit, little bit. But by the time I had had this 2 week break, I'd rebranded myself. I'd made a logo and I decided I was going to resign as a nurse. So
Right.
I went to work and said, look, I need to leave. Um, I don't think I can be a nurse any longer. And um, I was persuaded, and I'm very grateful that they did in a lot of ways, um, to stay for 4 hours a week. So one session a week. So I dropped from 20 hours to 4 hours a week, just doing the one session, and then continued on my path of moving away and increasing. So I became Sycamore Holistics. And in that time, we moved house and then we had COVID, and COVID brought a whole lot more stress. And with regards to my nursing career and my holistic career, it was quite difficult. I was living in the garage and doing yoga on Zoom in a little garage while we were doing up the house. And so I think really it's only in the last 18 months, 2 years that I feel grounded and I feel that I know which direction I'm going in and I've got the balance right for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, but I do a lot of inner work now. So,
What
um,
do you class as inner work?
well, at the moment, I'm like exploring. I'm reading a book called Shamanic Witches and Cauldrons, and it's very linked to the chakras, and doing a lot of work on the lower cauldron, which would be like your
Lower
sacral
chakras.
chakra,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that childhood trauma and feeling grounded, and all that work. So I know I need to do that. So that's what and I've dabbled in it for sure, but I've never really offered myself time to um,
To do
really
it.
delve in it
The two, the
in a
two
feeling way.
things, yeah, the two things we used to do in the Dharma Life Academy were inner child work and shadow work.
Yeah,
I think that they are the real keys
yeah,
to opening our energy centers
yes, yeah.
and
So although I've dabbled a little bit in both, I've probably always been a little bit afraid to go deeper because I didn't really understand how to do it, where to do it, how to get there. Um, but that's where I feel I need to be right now. And certainly the cacao most definitely opens everything up and allows access to all that much quicker, much deeper, but in a very loving, gentle way.
Mm.
Um, so I always feel like I've got a companion. And also with my interest in the shamanic path, I feel protected. So I feel like I've got well, I have got spirit guides and power animals and things. So, rather than looking outwards for healing and looking to people and pharmaceuticals and things like that for healing, I'm looking at me and
Yes, can heal
uh,
yourself.
yes,
Yeah.
um, using all the things that I use anyway, but on a much deeper level, um, which I think is is my path forward right now. But the balance feels a lot more comfortable than it's felt in a long time.
And you're now working 10 hours a week and then doing a mixture of, I've written a few of the things down here: yoga,
Yeah,
massage, Reiki, and then following this shamanic path with cacao
yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And how did the cacao come into your life?
So that was at the Yoga show about 2022, I think it was. And I went with my friend Tracy and we did a ceremony. It was a half an hour ceremony with a guy called Liam Brown of Full Power Cacao. And then we were pretty blown away by him and his team. And so we went to the stand after and drank more cacao. And he was doing a tour. So I invited him to the studio and he did a 5 hour ceremony here, which was both amazing and a little bit crazy. And cacao became part of my ritual since then. So I've drank it since then. I didn't start drinking it every day until probably I've had phases of drinking it every day, and now I do drink it every day because it's like a loving hug in the morning. But I do that along with something called tapas, which is a yoga discipline. So I would get up and make the cacao, which is also a really mindful. It's a mindful thing to do. Um, because you've got to stir it and you've got to add things. And sometimes I might sing a mantra while I'm making the cacao. And then we meditate. So I meditate for 22 minutes and 22 seconds. And then I do some kind of movement. For the last sort of 40 days, it's been yoga, but now I'm gonna change that a little bit and do a little bit of yoga and do some weight training because I kind of dropped off that a few months ago, and I need to, given my age, I need to bring some strength training back. So yeah, every morning, and I make it for myself and my husband. And if I am late getting up, he will shout, "Are you getting up? It's Lady Cacao coming." So he likes his cacao.
Trained him now to
Yeah,
check the
he
cacao in the
trained him.
mornings.
Yeah. So really it's about sharing the love. And within that, you can bring in all these other elements. So absolutely love drumming. I found a love for drumming probably a couple of years ago, and I went on a Star Seeds convention in Brighton with Steve Noble
Oh yeah.
and his partner at the time, Liz. And I had a chat with Liz and she was like, "What is it you want to do?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to follow the shamanic path." And she said, "Well, what do you need to do?" I said, "I need to get a drum, but I don't feel like I can buy a drum because I'm not a shaman." And she was like, "Well, I think you should just buy a drum, because you've got to take a first step. So maybe your first step is to buy a drum." So I bought a drum and that's kind of where it's led on from there. But you can get I find the drum very, very healing. So when I'm drumming for somebody else, or whether I drum for myself, um, so yeah, so that, and then the Reiki and massage and sound. So I actually came home from the Yoga show this year with a gong. So I'll be learning to play the gong fairly soon. So it's bringing all those elements in, and obviously yoga. And so I feel like my path going forward will be more of that, bringing more elements in. Because I think I've been very linear. I've done like Reiki, massage, and yoga, and I've only been offering yoga classes when and just Reiki when I can do all these other things like EFT tapping I've trained in. And so going forth, I've got some new classes on that bring all those elements in. Doing like a full moon circle, which will be cacao, and then yoga and yoga nidra, and then a fire ceremony. And then I've got one where we're doing cacao, and I'm going to do a Reiki shaman journey. So I'm starting to bring different elements in to what I offer. So eventually, because in theory, I can retire as a nurse in 3 years. So in theory, that's probably that's my plan, really.
And then go
Yeah,
full into the shamanic path.
yeah.
Fantastic. Amazing.
Which is both scary and exciting because, I have, despite having breakdowns, which wasn't all to do with it was to do with my soul not fitting particularly well in something I was offering. But also, it's all those other stresses, isn't it? It's being a mum, working full time, trying to be the best career person you can be, and the best mum you can be, and managing a house, and spinning all these plates, and realizing I actually can't do that. So, but when I think about my nursing career, I'm very grateful for it. I've met amazing people and wonderful patients who've enriched my life. Um, I just, my soul just sits somewhere else.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
sure. Well, you're listening to your soul now, which is obviously
yeah,
the difference between before the breakdowns and after the
yeah,
breakdown.
yeah. I mean, I have, where I work now have been amazing because they have, um, there was a time I used to go in the morning and teach yoga, and I put on an event for them last year. Um, but there's no real permanent space for that kind of holistic stuff within the big NHS. I think they try. I think they've tried. I mean, the Reiki is in certain hospitals, and they use it in some hospices and aromatherapy and lots of other things. But the day-to-day running, there's not a space for it. And we know that's because, there's just not enough space for it.
Mm.
Why?
What would you say to
Time-wise.
people who are listening to this who maybe aren't happy in their jobs and they've got an idea about what they want to do, but they're quite scared?
I think you just have to be brave and try. Uh,
Courage, yeah.
yeah, and I think for me, I've always had that security. So I've got 10 hours of security, financial security, to fall back on. So I know at the moment, I can pay my bills just about from that bit. And so that's given me and the people I've spoken to, like other holistic practitioners, a lot of people have kept a paid employed job for a little while they've stepped in
Mm.
to their other path. Rather than jumping in head first. But my advice would be to be brave and just take a step and try, because you're much better to try something and it had not worked than not try at all. Because most of the time, if you're passionate about something and you know that's your soul person, you will succeed. Um,
Yeah, I think we can work many, many hours towards things that we're passionate about, and it doesn't
yeah,
feel like work,
yeah,
so you're going to be
exactly.
more successful in it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's intention, and it's where if your focus is there, that's where your success is going to be. Energy flows where you
Attention goes,
focus.
yeah. Yeah, very good. Very good. Excellent. Oh, fantastic. So what's next for you is to keep walking this shamanic path, is that right?
It is, yeah, whatever that looks like. And just bring all these. I think I just want to be open and explore. I mean, 3 years ago, I hated the gong. I was in Liam's ceremony and it made me incredibly uncomfortable. And then 3 years later, I bought one and
Oh,
love it.
interesting.
So, I think we just have to remain open and explore things. And you don't have to rush, you can tread slowly. Um, and you can go, yeah, that I tried that and it was amazing, or actually I tried that and it doesn't quite feel right. And I think either of those are absolutely fine things to do. It's having the courage to try. Um, and I think failing is a sign of success because it means you've tried. So
Yes.
never be afraid of failing. And it's not really failing, it's just something that didn't quite work out in the way you thought it did. So I think yeah, I'm just going to keep walking my path, let ideas flow. And then I'm going to be doing things with Tracy. So we're going to take our cacao out into the world, into the local world, into our corner of the world. Along with Helene and Kirsty, hopefully our little team, our team of healers, and we can, each of us can bring all those tools with us, which is amazing. So I feel like, I've got this kaleidoscope of skills and I'm bringing them all together. Kaleidoscope's not the right word, but it's a beautiful world because it's
Yeah.
all colours, all colours and shapes, and that's kind of what it feels like it is. Yeah, and just keep going really and see what happens, see what
And if,
pops up.
and if people want to get hold of you, how can they get hold of you?
www.sycamoreholistics.com, and all my email, or my mobile number and email are all on there.
Excellent. Excellent. Oh, well, as you can see from Kerry's story, we have to listen to our intuition, we have to follow our guidance, and we have to basically lean into our soul purpose because that's where we're going to be happiest, we're going to vibrate highest, we're going to be passionate and have a fulfilling life. So it's really important that you listen to that inner CEO and inner sat nav. But Kerry, thank you so much for coming on to share your story. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you very much for inviting me and listening to me.
no,
It's
not
lovely.
at all. Not at
Yeah.
all. It's really fascinating. Thank you for being so open about your breakdowns. I think, mental health is not necessarily talked about enough. And I think, if someone like yourself who is obviously now really in a nice balanced place, who, is kind of making the most out of life, can talk about it destigmatizes it for people.
Absolutely, yeah. And to know that it can, it can happen to anybody. And the thing is, anybody looking in would have said, well, why? You've got a lovely house, a lovely husband, two children, a great career, why? So it can happen to anybody, and it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's an opportunity to look at your life and say, well, something's completely out of balance here, and it's an opportunity to make that change in your life. And it's painful, but the end result is worth all that healing and all that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. Right, we will see you next week on the Dharma Life podcast with another incredible guest. And if you would like to look up Kerry, we are on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Excellent. Thank you so much for listening to the Dharma Life podcast. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Please come over and say hello on my Instagram, our Facebook group, and also please let me know what you thought. So if you are listening, please take a screenshot of the podcast that you are listening to. Tag me on Instagram and I will reshare your post, and please let me know what it is that you got out of today's episode. Remember, when we do our Dharma, we are happier, healthier, we live longer, and we have a deep sense of unshakable inner peace.